You Booked It, episode 213.
What's going on, everyone? Thank you for joining me today on You Booked It, the #1 podcast where you learn how to create a successful entertainment career. Have you joined the You Booked It community yet? It is your go-to entertainment career resource. Inside, you'll have direct access to Broadway performers, Emmy nominees, and people just like yourself navigating this industry. Learn from those walking the walk. Build industry relationships, access unlimited masterclasses, and learn how to book the job more consistently. Join free today. Tap the link in the show notes or go to youbookeditpodcast.com/invite to get inside. And now, let's meet today's guest.
All right, let's kick today's episode off. I am excited to introduce to you my guest today, Jeff Leisawitz. Jeff, are you ready for this?
I'm totally ready for this. Let's rock.
Brilliant. Jeff is the author of Not Effing Around, the no BS guide for getting your creative dreams off the ground. Jeff burns with a mission to inspire songwriters, authors, and screenwriters to amp up their creativity and shine in the world. As an award-winning musician, producer, college songwriting professor, critically acclaimed author, distributed filmmaker, and internationally in-demand coach for creatives, Jeff has devoted his life to creativity. Jeff, that is a very concise and quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, fill in the gaps, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry?
Sure. So as you can see from the bio there, I've been at this for quite a while, really since I've been a teenager, songwriting, playing in bands, doing music for film and TV, stuff like that. I also am a writer. So as a music journalist, I got into that sort of at college and ended up writing the website for the radio station that broke grunge to the world back in the 90s,
cool.
which was really cool. In the mid 90s, no one really even heard of a website, but I got this amazing job to interview these bands and go to these shows and get a million free CDs. All that kind of stuff. So that was fantastic. Like I said, or like you said, I teach songwriting. So I got that going on. Also screenwriting, poetry, photography, all kinds of stuff. And then on the other side, or sort of parallel to that, I'm a life coach for creatives. I've always been really big on empowering people, empowering myself, and helping people get ahead both in the world and past their own stuff. Because often we are sort of our own worst enemy. I've studied and practiced something called NLP, neuro-linguistic repatterning, which I use which helps people untangle their subconscious blocks about their beliefs and identities about the world. If you don't believe that you can do something, or if you believe that the world is out to get you, all that kind of stuff, subconsciously, you're never going to get past that. So we deal with that. And like you said, I wrote the book, Not Effing Around, the no BS guide for getting your creative dreams off the ground. And that was really just helping. I wanted to write a book to help people bang their head against the wall less than I did. Right. So there it is in 100 pages or whatever.
So good. I'm looking forward to digging into this and exploring a little bit more through the interview. But first, let's get into this section here. And Jeff, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
I don't know if this is fair, but I'd like to quote myself.
Yeah, go
which
on.
Which I don't often do, but here's the perfect time. So here's the quote. At its best, I believe that creativity helps us to be seen, expressed, healed, and connected. So what am I really talking about that? What does that really mean? So to be seen out there in the world, I believe we're not often seen fully. You've got the internet and walking down the street where you're barely seen. You're mostly anonymous. Then you've got your next level where, maybe at work or your acquaintances, people like that, and they know you, they kind of get you, but they don't really, and they probably don't really care all that much either. And then you've got your close people, right? That's your good friends, your family, your partners, that kind of stuff. And hopefully they get you. But in my experience, they don't always get all of you. So that's the scene part. Then what's the express part? My definition of that is simply going from the potential to the actual. So think of like a dancer who knows all the moves and is sitting in the corner on Saturday night when the disco ball's spinning and the beat is thumping. In that moment, she's not expressed. As soon as she gets out there on the dance floor, she's expressed. Same thing for an actor, same thing for a poet. Having a bunch of poems on the desk doesn't make you expressed as writing the poem does. So that's that. So what's the healed part? I think everyone who's created from a deep, authentic place, performed, created, whatever, they know that something really special happens there. There's just something that's healing. And it doesn't have to come from a deep, dark place, although it often does. We can also be healed in singing a love song, right? What's the healing in that? I would say maybe it's letting go of all the pain and loneliness that came before that. So when we are seen, expressed, and healed through our creativity, we give our creativity to the world. And when I say the world, I'm not talking about the top of the charts and all that, although I suppose that's nice, right? It could be just a couple of people. It could be a small performance, whatever. You give your gift to the world. This is where it gets really cool. You show others that they can be the gift and they can be seen, expressed, and healed. And that's what connects us. That's why creativity of all kinds is so important to humanity, because it helps us understand each other. It helps us connect to each other.
I really like that. And you're so right. In so many ways, we seek some kind of permission, even if it's subconscious, to do the thing, because it can be scary to just put yourself out there, right? Like you said, you could know all the things or know all the moves or have all the right words, but to actually give it and share it is another step, right? And to see
Absolutely.
other people doing that gives you the permission and can enable you to, motivate you to take that next step and inspire you to take the next step. And it's not something that necessarily happens overnight, right? Maybe you got to see it a lot of times again and again. You're like, you know what? Here we go. I'm doing this now, finally.
Totally.
Very cool. Let's get into this section here. And Jeff, look, you are an entertainment professional. I'm an entertainment professional. And I think that you'd agree that this industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, and personally emotional industries in existence. And you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry like you're having now takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while yeah, for sure, there is an outrageous amount of fun and excitement doing what we do, there are also our fair share of obstacles, challenges, and failures we are going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
Sure. First of all, Dane, let me say you are right. This is a tough game. And I really think it's tough at every level, from just starting to the people that are at the top of the heap. It's very difficult there too. It's just different kind of difficult, if that makes
For
sense.
sure.
Okay. So what is one thing that I've experienced in failure and came out better the other side? Well, years ago, I had been working for decades, really, in getting a record deal to really really get this thing going. Finally, I got 3 at the same time, international record deals. Okay. Fan-freaking-tastic. I was overjoyed. When was this? This was, I think, the spring, I would say, of 2008. What is significant about that? 6 months later, the world economy crashed,
Yep.
thus destroying 2 out of the 3 record companies that had just signed me. Oh my God. So basically, I went from this high of, wow, my dream has come true, to complete disaster. I then had to get the rights to my music back. And so that took time and money, the lawyer and all this and that. However, I managed to take this and put it out onto the streaming services and downloads and all that. And it's done really well, over 1 million plays since that time. So,
Yeah, very cool.
it was just another lesson in you can't You don't know what's going on in the world. You can't know the various changes, both in the positive and negative. And, center your power. That's a huge thing we talk about as a life coach. Are you giving your power away? Because lots of people do a whole lot of the time. We need to know what we can control and then motivate and execute.
So good. Yeah, that's crazy. Amazing that you got 3 all at once. And then, yeah, that 08, 09, not a good time. Hopefully we don't see history repeat itself, but history tends to repeat itself. So I guess we'll see what happens in the coming years. But very cool. And I agree that you just have to, like you said, giving your energy away. Is that what you said?
Giving your energy and centering your control. Like,
Centering your control. That's what it was.
yeah.
Yeah, I really like that image as well that creates. And I think you are so right, because it's so easy for us to give, especially as artists, as
Mhm.
creatives, that we are here to share. It's also a big reason why in general, I tend to not be a big fan of unions, but I think that unions for the arts are very important because of that very reason,
Mhm.
that we tend to overgive and it can be taken advantage of very easily. And you're right. Artists, I guess, reining it back and looking at, okay, where is my energy going is super important.
Absolutely. So like, if I could just give a 2-second a little monologue here on this,
Yeah.
centering your power. So we can influence our world in a whole bunch of ways, but we can really only have power or center our power in 3 things. And that is how we perceive the world, how we act on the world, and how we react to the world.
Mm,
Okay. So just think about that. How we act in the world, how we react to the world, and how we perceive the world. That's the only place we really have true personal power. So an example that kind of expresses this is somebody who's working the day job and they're like, my boss never gives me a raise. My boss never gives me a raise. So that's externalizing and giving away your power. You can't make the boss do the thing. Right.
right.
However, what can you do? What is under your control? You could stay later. You could learn more skills. You could figure out better ways to get those company systems going and make more money, stuff like that. Guess what? If you do that, you're either going to get a raise or get a job somewhere else. And that's centering
Yeah.
your power. It's not waiting for the boss to give you the raise.
100%. That is true. So what can you control? Because in this industry, I mean, it applies, I think, to all of life, but especially in the creative world,
Mhm.
in the arts world, the theater world, music world. There are so many factors that are always out of our control. And that comes up a lot in different interviews on this podcast that, look, you just got to go and do what you do, control what you can control, because there's so many factors that just are out of your control. And to put energy there is doing you a disservice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you know building industry relationships are the most important assets you need to create a long-lasting entertainment career? And don't take my word for it. Guest after guest here on the podcast have attributed some of their biggest career moments to their relationships. That is why you need to get yourself inside the You Booked It community. You'll learn what you need to do to get noticed, and make sure your headshot stays in the callback pile so you can book the gig more consistently and create a successful career. Tap the link in the show notes or go to youbookeditpodcast.com/invite to get inside free today.
Let's move on to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living. Or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing in the entertainment industry. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. The origin story. So I grew up in Pennsylvania, and as a little kid, way back in the 70s, yes, I'm that old, I went to summer camp, sleepaway camp. And I love this thing. Every night after dinner, they would have something called free play, which was an hour or so where the kids could just run amok. Okay. So this is in the late 70s. There was an empty cabin one summer. So this counselor, a guy who was like maybe 20 or something, brought his drum kit, big old 70s stereo, and a couple milk crates of vinyl records. And this was when classic rock was being born. This is Tom Petty and Bowie and Zeppelin and Billy Joel and like all this awesome stuff. So every night he would go to this cabin, turn on that stereo, and play drums to the songs. And I, as a little kid, maybe a 7 or 8-year-old, would sit maybe 20 or 30 feet away under this tree, and I would just listen. And the sun was going down, fireflies were coming out, and I was just mesmerized by the music. One day, this guy comes out onto the porch, and he sees me there. He's like, "Hey, kid, come here." I'm like, "Okay, so you want to come in and check this out?" I'm like, yeah. I go into this little empty cabin. It's like a cabin with a drum kit and a stereo. And this guy puts on the Who song, "Won't Get Fooled Again." And if you know that one, it's a major rocker. And this guy just bangs these drums in such a huge way. And my little heart explodes. I'm like, oh my God, I want to rock. And that was the beginning. that was
so
it.
cool.
Yeah.
Love that. Well, let's piggyback on that real quick and talk about your number one booked it moment that you've had. So walk us through that day, what was going on in your life, and what makes it your favorite booked it moment.
Right. Well, I am not as much of a performer, especially these days, as maybe a lot of people on your show, but I've got a similar concept here. So
Yeah.
I wrote a screenplay maybe 15 years ago, and I go down to Hollywood and I pitch it to producers and agents and all this kind of stuff. And like, it's not going anywhere. I'm like, okay, geez, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I come from also punk rock spirit, which is, partially about DIY, do it yourself. Okay. So I'm like, none of these movie studios or people want to make my movie. I'm going to write a short film. So I wrote, directed, and produced a short film. I haven't gone to film school. What the hell do I know about doing that? But I make this thing. It's called Mystic Coffee. It's about a wise and magical barista, okay, in the land of coffee over here in Seattle. So what you do, as many of your listeners know, is you put the film out to film festivals. So I did this to dozens of film festivals, and I got shot down by every single one. I'm like, oh my God, maybe I'm really not good at this. Maybe I should give it up. And then a couple of weeks later, out of the clear blue sky, I get a phone call. "Hi, this is so-and-so from an international streaming service like Netflix." And she's like, "A friend of mine turned me on to your movie. We want to license it for international distribution," which is essentially skipping all the pieces. Like, that's the end goal, is to get your movie out, get it made, get it out. I skipped the film festival. I skipped the agents, skipped the managers, skipped the studios. So that was my booked it moment, which just tells me, once again, center your power, do it yourself. Where can you go? What can you do? And just do it.
That's so good. What a crazy story.
Oh,
I love that as well, because that is the end goal, to get distribution. And it's so funny because I think a lot of people lose track of that. People are like, "Oh, look at all these awards that we got at all these different festivals." You're like, what did that amount to as well? And got to keep the end in sight. What are you actually trying to accomplish? And it doesn't really matter how you get there. If you get there, you win.
Exactly. And I would also like to state that although that's essentially the product, that is the end goal, and right, keep your eye on the prize and all that. Another hugely important part that creatives often forget, including myself, is the process and loving what you're doing. There's really no reason to do the things we do if you don't love it. Maybe not all of it, but most of it, because it's simply too hard and too risky. Like, you can't possibly be doing this for the money, right? Like, get a job, right? You need to remember that you love acting, you love singing, you love juggling, whatever your thing is. And that is what drives you. So as a life coach, we always want to go down and really drill down into what is truly at the core of your mission. What are you really trying to do? And if you know that's something that you love automatically, and that path.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really glad that you brought that up and you made that note and that distinction, because it's also something that comes up in various interviews as well on the podcast, is booking that big thing, whatever that might be for whatever it is that you do. My experience personally is whenever I've gotten like a peak moment, big resume line or something, you're super jacked up about it because you did it. You got what you were going for. You achieved, you did the thing. But every single time I've ever done that, as soon as I've done it, I have that moment of elation going, oh, this is amazing. But then that moment doesn't last that long. And you're like, all right, now what? Now let's do the next project. Let's keep going. And how do you do that? You got to do it by doing what you did to get to the first one or improve your skills, right? Like it goes back to the process.
Right. So the bottom line of what you're saying there, I think, is achieving the goal is not going to make you happy for long.
Yeah. You want it.
Right.
For sure.
You want it for sure. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But what I'm saying is the truth of your happiness it is in your pursuit of the goal. It's not actually in the goal. Right.
Yeah. It's exactly. Love it.
Yeah. Right on.
Well, let's take a moment to talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And hey, here we are. Quite a few months later, we're still kind of amidst this global pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Things are happening. How do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
Well, the entertainment industry, like every industry, is doing what it can with what it's got and what people are willing to tolerate in terms of the pandemic. So it's going to go how it goes. And some people are not going to want to tour or perform live until it's safer. And some fans are not going to go to shows until it's safer. And some are, right? It just depends. And it depends how the, whole pandemic sort of swings, I suppose. And that's out of our control. So again, what can we do? I have no idea. Everybody wants to do their thing and everyone's got different risk tolerance, right? And financial needs. So people are going to do what they're going to do. Everyone makes their choices.
And what are you working on at the moment?
I am working on sync music, a music for film and TV.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, actually had quite a career with that. We didn't even talk about that, but I've had thousands of songs on film and TV over the years. I unfortunately made a not great deal with my music catalog a few years ago, which kind of put me in the hole for a while, but I got my music back and I'm creating a bunch of new stuff and just all that. So I'm pretty psyched.
Great. And for our listeners who might not know what sync music is, can you give a little pitch on that?
Sure. Sync music is essentially music that is synchronized to a video source. And that video source is generally a TV show or video or film, video games, various internet content. It can even be apps and things like that. But it's basically film and TV and video games. So all that music that goes on there needs to be licensed. And some of it doesn't matter that much what it is, but some of it does, especially songs with, they want this kind of vibe and this kind of feel and these kind of lyrics.
Right.
It speaks to the story. So there's a whole industry essentially around that.
Very cool. It is time to move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round. I am going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. First question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career in the entertainment industry?
Nothing except myself, really. I was naive to what the whole thing was. And I was such an idealist as a young person that I committed without really even understanding what I was getting into. I just assumed I was going to be immediately successful. One of my college professors, who was my advisor, said to me that as an artist, if you're going to be an artist, get ready for 97% pain and rejection. I was like, damn, it couldn't be that much. But as we all know, it's that much. But we still do it because we love it.
There we go. Second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
The best piece of advice I've ever received is a sneaker tagline. Just do it.
Yeah. Third question. What is something that is working for you right now? Or if you'd like to go pre COVID, what was working for you before our industry took a pause?
Something that is working for me. I found some new software and web services and things like that. I'm always amazed at what's going on the web. If you have a problem, someone out there probably solves it on a computer. So you just have to look
Yes.
for it. Yeah.
Fourth question. What is your best resource? Whether that's a book, a movie, a YouTube video, maybe a podcast or piece of technology you found is helping you right now.
Yeah. I would say it's pandemic Zooms because
Yes.
they have actually opened up connections between so many professionals simply because everyone's forced to do this. Nobody wants to have a meeting really right now or for the past year and a half. And who knows for how much longer. Zoom existed, but everyone migrated to it. So now you can talk to pretty much anybody.
Yeah, for sure. It's so good. I do a lot of Zooming. Hey, we're on Zoom right now. So there you go. And the fifth question, if you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently or would you keep it the same?
I would do one thing differently, and that is I would go on tour as a rock musician, as a bass player or guitar player in a rock band, even if the band wasn't that great, even if it was going to either barely lose money or not be profitable, even if I had to sleep on the floor or in the van. That is something that I wish I did when I was younger that I'm not willing to do at this juncture.
Yeah, very cool. And the last question, what is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in this industry you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Yeah, someone actually did tell me this golden nugget, and and this was the same teacher in college. She said, focus on one thing, one pursuit. However, I've never been able to do that. I love too many things. However, over the years, I've had solid success in a lot of different things in music, coaching, film, photography, all that stuff, but no like major grand slams, what I would consider a major grand slam. And I think that is simply because I haven't focused just on one thing all the time.
And to wrap up this interview, Jeff, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Great. Well, hopefully they can find me on your show notes and stuff like that. If they can spell my last name or even get close, they'll find it. Jeff Leisawitz, once again, find my website, that is. And yeah, what am I offering? I would love to do a short online Zoom coaching session with you guys to see how I can help you both in your career, in your marketing, in your strategy, all that kind of stuff, but also in what I call the internal world. What might be keeping you back from moving forward, whether it's those beliefs or identities, that we talked about before, or understanding your priorities, understanding what really makes you tick, all those kinds of things. So yeah, just go there and you can sign on up and I'll see you on the Zoom.
Brilliant. And for everyone listening out there, I have indeed put all the links to everything that Jeff just said so you can easily connect with him. And also be sure to share this podcast with your fellow entertainers, coaches, teachers, arts and entertainment educators, and anyone aspiring to create a career in the entertainment industry. You Booked It is the #1 resource of expertise on how to actually create a successful entertainment career. Case in point, everything Jeff gave us today in this episode. If you enjoyed this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on and having a chat.
Absolutely. It was great. Thanks, Dan. It was really cool being here.
Thank you so much for listening today. If you enjoyed this episode and want more like it, be sure to smash that subscribe button. Also, be sure to join the You Booked It community. Inside, you can connect with your people, build industry relationships, unlock unlimited masterclasses, and access the tools and training you need to create sustainable career momentum. Get your invite link right now. Tap the link in the show notes or head over to youbookeditpodcast.com/invite, and we'll see you there.